Tell me your story.
How did it all start? Do you remember?
Oh, now what happened? How did it stop?
This is Small Business Origins.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Small Business Origins. I'm your host, as always, John Kelly, aka John the Marketer on Instagram and TikTok, John the Podcaster on Twitter. You're tuned in. It's our nationwide search. We're looking for entrepreneurs that have a story to tell. And joining us virtually in the studio, I've got an entrepreneur with one heck of a story. We've already gotten into it before the show started. I can't wait to hop into it. But from Garnet Valley, Pennsylvania, I've got Chris Joyce with Gusher. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, thanks for having me.
Man, it is our pleasure as always. This is an exciting episode. Just, I can tell from our quick chat before we got started. But before we hop into all of that stuff, we always start out with an icebreaker question. And today's icebreaker question is, what do you call your grandparents?
Well, I don't really call them anything because they're dead. That's number one. I don't know if that counts as an icebreaker, but I used to call my grandma. I mean, my grandfathers I never met, never one, and they were never in my world. Only one grandmother.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is such an interesting question because people around the country are so different, right? You know, all the names and nicknames we have. And I mean, unfortunately, I share the same thing with you. I have my maternal grandmother is still here. My maternal grandfather has passed away. And then both of my grandparents on my father's side have passed away. I was with you on most of it. You know, I had like my grandma Arlene, my grandpa Kelly, my grandma Jean, but we also call my grandma Jean Nana.
Right.
You know, and then my kids would call like my Aunt Rhonda, they would call her Nene. My mother was called by all of her grandchildren Mama.
Right.
So I'm down here from Texas, man. We got these Southern draws. You know, there's some Southern names we come up with for grandparents. That's for sure.
Well, my kids up here, I married into an Irish family, more like an Irish clan, where they have their ways and they don't say grandma or grandfather or anything. They say mum, and they say da. And I'm like, what the heck is that about? So they refer to as mum, and da. That's what they go by.
It's so interesting how you can find out about other cultures just by what they call the people related to them. And I mean, we have our nicknames for almost everybody. My sister is called Ane by all of my kids. And, you know, it's great, man. I like having those little nicknames. It feels special.
Yeah,
it just makes you
personal.
feel like everyone could say grandma, but when you say Nana or Mama or something else like that, it sounds a little different. So I wanted to hop into that. But we're here to talk about you, Chris.
Sure.
So where did you come from? How'd you get into entrepreneurship? What I ask everyone is, what's your origin story?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, Fairborn, Ohio. I always say that I'm in the middle of farm fields and factories, basically near an Air Force base. And I got into entrepreneurship really at an early age. I started literally selling. I don't know if anybody knows about it, but like burpee seeds, the seeds to like grow watermelons and corn and sunflowers and all that. I used to sell those door to door. That was literally my first quote unquote business back from being a kid. And I started that at a very early age and just really caught the bug. I mean, I've done my own businesses, my own deals pretty much ever since. And
That's
that was
awesome,
in
man.
the beginning stage.
So you started there. Did you go through anything like traditional college, that kind of stuff, job hop at other jobs, or have you kind of always been an entrepreneur?
Well, it's funny because you were actually talking about your friend with me in the beginning when we were off the air. And I have a kind of a similar story. I have a friend named Brent in Ohio also, and we still do business to this day. But he and I used to skip school when we were 15, 16 years old, because you could drive back then when you were 15. And we didn't go ahead and skip school to party or drink or do whatever else. We used to skip school to attend in Columbus, Ohio, what are called SCORE meetings, SCORE. So we'd go into these senior core of retired executives and quite literally write business plans. That's what we skipped school to do, is to write business plans. So we started writing business plans at an early age. And to this day, I still follow the same format, the same old school format on it because it works. And from there, I basically, I had some businesses as a teenager, the standard type of stuff. Ended up going to New York and becoming the youngest stockbroker ever for a period of time. But from then on out, I just started my own deals, literally my own businesses 100%. Everything from business brokerage to technical audio text companies to manufacturing to SaaS, fintech, AR, VR. I've started more than 24 companies. My products have been sold all across the globe in more than 11,000 stores. And I've got a couple patents out there, and my tech products have been sold have users in more than 150 countries across the globe. So I've done an extensive amount of businesses, or a wide variety of businesses.
Man, that's such a cool thing to find yourself in, because serial entrepreneurs, it's something that has always spoken to me, because it's like I get bored quickly, and I get bored easily with, doing the same thing over and over again. I like the challenge, and I don't know why I do, because it seems so punishing of yourself to want to put yourself in that position, because it's always a struggle when you're trying to get those companies off the ground.
Yeah, but see, I view this same thing, but yet differently. So I'll view it as, all right, you're going ahead and you don't like doing the same thing over and over. I hate it also. I get bored, crazy bored. I don't even like doing the same industry twice. I like to do something fundamentally different that hasn't been done before. But I almost view it as you trying these different things, or wanting to do different things, is almost in a way like an artist trying to find their own style, or like an explorer trying to go into their new territory, a new geography, or whatever it is. Well, these days you can't, it's very hard to do that. So, business itself lends itself to that, because no matter what you start, you're bringing your own DNA to the table. So fundamentally, whatever you create is going to be different. Even if you're duplicating a model that's out there in some way, shape, or fashion, you yourself may be that different catalyst, or that different ingredient that ends up making it change in some way.
We've talked about this on several podcasts where, like partnerships often work out pretty well, because I say often work out well. I mean, obviously you have to have the right partner, but usually in an entrepreneurship setting, you do have those people who are so different. One that's a dreamer, they've got the idea, they want to do it. They don't necessarily have the business acumen to get it done. And then on the other side, you have that very logical thinker who's analytical, who knows how to establish a business, who knows how to do certain parts of the business. And, that's kind of what works in OMG Event Co. Andrew and I's company is I'm the guy that has the operational experience. I'm the guy that has the dream of where we can take it. He's the guy that knows how to do the marketing. He's the guy that, of course, I know how to do marketing now, but back then I didn't. And he's the guy that has that business acumen. So we work really well as a partnership. And I think it kind of plays into Gusher, because with Gusher, I know you were telling me that this is kind of a thing where you can have that dream and not necessarily the idea to execute it. And maybe I'm wrong here, but it seems like Gusher can kind of come in to be that partner, that advisor that's going to help you to really scale the dream that you have and turn it into a reality. So let's just start with, what is Gusher, and why should we, be talking to you as a potential, I dare to say, partner to kind of help us to bring this into reality?
Yeah, definitely. Well, Gusher itself was born out of the frustration of seeing entrepreneurs unable to get funding. I was literally at an event in Washington, D.C. at a venture capital meeting, and there were certain entrepreneurs that, they didn't look like everyone else. They didn't sound like everyone else. They didn't attend Stanford University and wear hoodies. And because they didn't live in New York, Israel, or Silicon Valley, their chances of getting venture capital funding were basically non-existent, but their ideas were effing brilliant. So, what is Gusher? What did I set out to do? Well, when I met these guys, there was and women actually, early across the spectrum. What I ran into, or what I really saw, was this huge need to help in a different way. Now, I've always started my businesses fundamentally different. So my businesses have been funded in many different times and cycles and everything else, but I never needed a penny, not a dime, to get a business off the ground, or to really about the $10 million in sales volume level. I never needed anything. So what I decided to do is, all right, I talked to a couple partners. I said, hey, I wonder if there's a way to teach our methodology, our process, to people out there, and to see if it really works. And so our process is using something called performance-based equity. So what I say to a founder is, especially founders that don't have a penny, you don't need a penny at all, not one dime, is what would you do if you had $1 million or $2 million sitting in the bank account right this second? And then how would you build your company? How would you build your team out? Because what happens is, that's done on Gusher all day, every day. People apply to join their company in exchange for performance-based equity. So instead of needing all that cost there to go ahead and start up, to go ahead and cover the expertise to solve that problem or to build the company, you're bringing in people as partners to help build that company from the very beginning. And that's extremely important. You don't need money. You don't need anything. You just really need the right people to help bring the idea to life. And so, I never ask anybody for a cent. We're not here and we don't say, hey, yes, it's XYZ dollars to join Gusher. Gusher itself is a performance-based equity player. The only time that we succeed is when the founder succeeds. That's it.
So are you looking for only people that are a complete startup, maybe haven't even began yet? Or are you looking for companies that are in the startup phase, maybe have a little bit of revenue, they have some performance metrics there, but they're looking to really grow and scale?
Our numbers work out to about the following. About 85% of startups that come on to Gusher are at the ideation stage. So they don't necessarily even have a solution. They have a problem. And the point of going ahead and putting that team together is to solve that problem. It's not for the founder to solve that problem. It's for the founder to really get the right people to solve that problem and get it out the door in terms of a productive way to be self-sustaining. About 10, 15% of our companies, it varies, are what are called legacy companies. So typically what happens is they may have actually raised a round of venture capital, or they may have raised a round of seed funding or a friends and family round. They may have 100, 500,000, $1 million plus worth of revenue. But the problem usually fundamentally is they can't grow beyond a certain point because usually it comes back to that they built their company incorrectly. And so what I say to all technical companies, you'll like this because it serves your purpose. Almost every company, technical company, consumer goods company, manufacturing, I don't care what it is that you're not a product company first and foremost. You're not there sitting there solving this problem. First and foremost, you are a marketing and sales company. And that's got to be put in the process from the very beginning, from the ideation of the company, in order to have a company that's self-sustaining and profitable and doesn't need funding. And that's really what people do ask backwards.
Yeah. I mean, say it again for the people in the back. I mean, that's every single person has to deal with marketing, sales. I mean, without it, where's your company going to go, honestly?
Absolutely.
But more specifically on the types of companies you're looking for, is there something that you don't necessarily delve into? Talking about, for instance, companies that sell products like retailers. Are you not looking for agencies that provide services? Are you not looking for a certain thing?
No, actually, this is what we do. We're really market agnostic. We let the market decide. So we have everything from dog food companies to textiles, to SaaS, fintech, AR, VR, AI, gaming, prop tech, you name it, we've got it. It runs across the spectrum. The real main thing is the following. A founder has to be able to communicate their idea in a very, very simplistic way. The main point about Gusher is, and we have a saying about it, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, 1 + 1 equals done. What do we mean by that? That when you're recruiting your team, when you're putting your team together, bringing on one person for performance-based equity, that's the key metric. If a founder is able to do that, those are the companies, those are the 80% that go on to succeed, that become self-sustaining, that are able to grow. But if you can't do that, you can't bring somebody on into your company for performance-based equity, well, anyone would take a check to join your company, but not many people will work on an idea, on a company that they don't fundamentally believe in exchange for equity. So it's basically a form of market validation. You're able to bring somebody on, those are the companies that are able to go. If not, it dies there right in the beginning, as it should.
Yeah, that's a hard pill to swallow, I think, for some people. I mean, even myself, I've had some great ideas and I bounce them off of Andrew and we're like, man, this seems like something that would be a really cool solution to XYZ problem. And then you're like, all right, so how would we actually do this? And you start thinking about the logistics of it and you're like, all right, cool, next idea. Let's go on to something else. And it's like, son of a bitch, I worked hard on this. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but here, I look at it somewhat maybe differently. All right. So if I get pushback on an idea, that's not necessarily a red flag. So let me give you a quick example. I had a company that grew very, very large. It was it was actually the largest in its category. It was a low carb manufacturing company. So we made low carb breads, low carb muffins, that type of thing. And when I first started that company, I was basically penniless at the time. I mean, down to my last $1,200. I was almost flat broke, about to be evicted, everything else. And I had to contact more than 500 food chemists that told me it couldn't be done. It shouldn't be done. It wouldn't be done. I had PhDs telling me to go F myself. And each time I heard that, I was like, no, they're wrong. They're wrong. And so I knew internally that if I could take that type of rejection from people that it's their business, their science. I'm not the science. I'm not the food chemist. I don't know that. That literally that idea should basically be born. So it's the resilience of the individuals to go ahead and take it many times, the negative, that really decides whether an idea will go ahead and fly, because usually that first idea that you go down that road isn't the idea that it ends up being. It morphs into something else. Bad ideas become good ideas if you start going down that road.
Yeah, problem solving is the key to entrepreneurship. I mean, it's something you have to be able to do, because everything that you face in your entrepreneurial journey is going to bring you to problems. I mean, just the idea alone that you came up with as a company should have some problem, as you said, that it's solving. So absolutely, that's what we should do. And you're right. There's just sometimes there's ideas that just aren't that great, and the things are insurmountable. But I love the fact that most of the people that we have on the show absolutely come from that, where they were told no by so many people. And because they don't have competition in the market, because so many people were willing to shut it down, that's why they succeed so well. So if I have one of these ideas and I'm like, you know what, this guy, Chris, this company, Gusher, this sounds great. What does the application process look like to speak with you? Because I'm assuming that not everybody gets in, not everyone gets a yes, and not everyone moves forward with you.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, we always go ahead and talk to anybody. So that's number one. Number two, to get on to Gusher doesn't cost a thing. A person just joins Gusher, you're in Gusher. So in Gusher, you have the ability to start building a startup draft. And so our system automatically walks a founder through, or a potential founder through. And then what we usually do is we just jump in. So we jump in and say, hey, talk to them about their idea, figure out the best ways to present it, the best way to go about recruiting a team. We take them through the steps. Usually takes an hour, 2, 3 hours, depending upon the founder. And then they're up and running. I mean, that's all it takes. And then based upon what happens in the marketplace, which is the way it should be, either they start getting applicants, they start getting people where their idea is resonating with somebody, or it doesn't. I mean, we're not going to sit here as Gusher and pretend that we know everything about every market and everything about every damn deal. There have been companies that I said, and I've got a J-score rating, an internal rating of these 10 things that we track companies on. They don't know that, but we go ahead and track them. And there have been so many instances of stuff that I thought, this is dead on arrival. It's never going to work. Nothing, Zippo. And then sure enough, I'm like, holy crap, they got a team. Holy crap, they got a product. Holy crap, they got sales. And where the hell did that come from? And I don't know if you can see it. I'm getting goosebumps right there, because that's a daily event. Let the market decide. We give the structure and the process, and we help get them going.
So is this kind of like a crowdfunding of people willing to buy into your idea?
No. Okay. It's not crowdfunding.
Okay.
What it is like, let me give you an example. Let's say, and this is one of our companies right here. So this is Pharmalogical Smooch. They make a nutraceutical oat water product. It's kind of a really neat thing. And so he was a grad student in college, came up with this great idea, but he needed to go ahead and bring this product to market. He needed to have a chief marketing officer to go ahead and identify the target markets and personas. He needed to have a creative director to go ahead and create the voice to be able to penetrate into those marketplace. He needed to have a food scientist, a food chemist, to make sure as the formulation scaled up, they wouldn't run into any problems, which they did. He needed to have packaging designer. He needed to have, sales validation and the ability to penetrate these other things there with biz dev. And he had to have a CFO, a chief financial officer, to make investor contacts as they grew to hopefully establish those relationships. So So what he did was put together this complete team from the very beginning, and then the product leapfrogged generations. So instead of him having to go through it linearly, by bringing on these experts at what they do, they're able to leapfrog generational development and be at a different place much quicker.
I realized I posed that question completely wrong.
Okay.
I meant to say not from an equity or financial standpoint, but from a buy-in of, I'm good at marketing. I'm on your site. Someone comes up with this idea and I'm like, I know how to market this product. I can bring this product to the market and get that story out there. So you're kind of crowdsourcing people to work in your business, basically. And once Gusher sees this big buy-in, they say, cool, we'll come in and be the financial partner for that performance-based equity.
Right. Well, what we do is just provide the structure. So think of it this way. We have a company, a very success story, a company on our platform called Happy Howl. So I'll save you the long story because of time, but Happy Howl went ahead. It's a dog food company, and he had a really sick dog, and he took it to the veterinarian, and the veterinarian said, put it on this dog food, that dog food, another dog food. Dog kept dying. So he hacked his own dog food together over 2, 3, 4 months. He went ahead and put his dog on it, and over a period of 3, 4, 5 months, the dog magically came to life, and he wanted to start a dog food company. When we first came into Gusher, he didn't listen to our process and how to do it. So he puts this team together of awesome people. They have managed $50 million, $100 million, $200 million budgets. I could mention companies here. You have their products on your shelf. Okay. 6 weeks later, 7 weeks later, the whole company imploded. Then he listened, built up a second team of people that really made sense. And a year and a half, 2 years later, they're worth more than 10 million, growing 35% month over month. They just got all these big chain contracts and everything else. His second team all had something in common. The first team did not. This is not a trick question, John. It's a dog food company. His second team all had what in common, John?
They know things about dog food.
They own dogs. Okay. They don't have cats.
Okay. Yeah.
They don't have cats. They don't have kids.
Okay.
They're not they're not child parents. They're dog parents. They got the market. They ate, breathed, lived, and pooped out the market. So it resonated with them. Though every last member, if you take a look at his pitch deck of his team, has a dog. And so they get the market. They know what the product was about and what they were trying to create. And so that company took off like a rocket. Same type of thing. I would tell it to anybody. That's called the vested interest market, the VIM. The people who have the most to gain from the success or failure of your company, that's how you build up your team. And that's what we go ahead and take the founders through how to do.
That makes sense. Look, when you tell me it's not a trick question, I'm automatically going to overthink everything. Okay. So I love it. I love when I get these questions on the show, but 100%. I mean, I think I was half right. I mean, I said they understand dog food. Who understands dog food better than dog owners,
Absolutely.
But no, I love this. I think that there's at least a good chunk of listeners who are either business owners currently, or they are someone who would like to own a business. I have had listeners reach out to me and they're like, man, this is great for people who want to own a company to be able to listen to these entrepreneurs, hear their successes, hear their failures, and kind of understand things ahead of time before I decide to make that leap. So I'm just trying to think for the person that's sitting there listening right now saying, okay, this seems like a no-brainer that I need to be a part of this. And I hope that they go to our show notes, click your link, and find out more about you. Sure. But my question, kind of as that listener who's wanting to be an entrepreneur, would be, so you're telling me about the performance-based equity and all that stuff, but what does it mean exactly? How much am I going to have to pay you? Now, I know, obviously, that it's going to depend on the performance, but in their mind, what's the best way to explain you're going to pay based on a scale or whatever it may be? How do I kind of get that across to that listener? Okay,
think of it this way. We're not a scale. It's a straight equity position. So we get equity in your company so long as you're able to launch successfully into the marketplace, and then you're able to make money. If you're not, we get nothing. We're actually in that boat with you side by side, rowing it to be able to make that happen. Same thing with your teammates. So our position is very objective. It's a 5% equity position, but it's not granted immediately, and it's only granted if the company succeeds on Gusher. If it doesn't, we get nothing. Zippo nada. But I don't sit there and ask founders, hey, you've got to pay X amount per hour or X amount per month, or hey, there's money exchange in hands. Gusher doesn't even have like a merchant account. We don't accept funding at all. We accept equity. So stock equity transactions, it's all we do. That's all we have in ownership in. So we're sitting there.
I think it's a great way to kind of do business because, it does free up. I mean, I don't know if you like to watch Shark Tank. I love it. I'm sure our listeners like to hear it too. If they like business stories, surely they like Shark Tank. And you hear those things that Kevin O'Leary says all the time about wanting to take some type of royalty on top. And it's like, that's bleeding the company dry as it's making money, and then these equity offers are usually very large amounts of equity for a very small cash influx. And I know that sounds strange to some people where they're like, how's $200,000 a small chunk of change? And it's like, well, when it comes to the business world, especially businesses at the scale you're discussing, $200,000 should be nothing for them after year one or year two. Well, so I know that asking for 20, 30% is a huge deal.
Well, our goal, Shark Tank is one thing. First of all, I'm going to say this real quickly. Shark Tank, it's great entertainment. It's not reality. So meaning that 100%. Most of the time we would call that basically parasitic fishing, or what were the birds that go ahead, vultures and sucker deals. Those types of deals usually tank a company and leave the founder upside down the way they're structured on TV. And by the way, it's very rare to see those deals that happen on TV actually go through after the show. One of my attorney friends is a representation on that show. So I know the numbers that actually do go through. All right. So they're very, very low. On the other side, you have to think of it this way. And I won't go into the details of it, but there's something called your pre-money and post-money valuation. Our goal really, and we don't make in our own eyes a damn penny on a deal until that company is able to really reach the 10 million in valuation. All right. So if a company goes ahead and they're doing $250,000 revenue or $500,000 or $1 million, that's a great lifestyle business. The chance of that selling, you could maybe sell that and get, 3, 4, 5 months worth of gross for that type of deal. But in order for it to really have impact, you have to have something that's generating at least 10 million after a couple of years and really growing rapidly after that in order to move the needle on us. So we're just trying to go ahead and help founders get started and get past that barrier of, oh my God, I need money to get a business started. You don't at all. Zero, nada. I get that there's a desperation there and that you may not see that, but you only don't see that because you haven't been shown that. And that's literally what we do. We show them step by step how to do it. It's not rocket science. It just takes time. It's the easiest hard work there is. It's the easiest hard work there is.
Yeah, I had a guest on my show one time, and I immediately think of her story because it's kind of similar, even though it's a totally different subject. But it's they were digital nomads. And for me, I was like, I would love to be a digital nomad, but I can't, right? I'm married, I've got kids, all these things. And she said, why can't you? I said, well, because I'm married, I have kids, all these things. And she was like, you've been trained to think this way since you were born, that a home is security.
Yep.
But what better way to teach your children besides homeschooling them, going across the country, viewing these historical places that they're learning about and actually taking part in it versus being at home all the time and learning about it from a textbook or online. And I was like, man, that really sticks out to me. That's the way we've been trained. And I don't know about you and how you came up as far as, I'm still in business school. I'm 34 years old, almost 35. So my education is taking a long time, and I am not as smart as a lot of these venture capitalist people that are out there. I'm an everyday man, and I've got things that I've understood from being in certain industries. But I was always taught from the beginning, if you have an idea, you build a business plan, you come up with funding for it, and then you open your company based off of that funding. And it sounds like to me, what you're doing is turning that upside down and saying, screw that.
100%.
You don't need to have money first. You need to have the idea, a solid business plan, and people who can work it with you, and then figure out how to build that company and make it happen. You don't have to worry about the money side of it. But at the same time, my follow-up question, because I know you're itching to answer that and talk about it, but my follow-up question would be, then where is the money coming from? Because it does take money to start a business. So,
no, it doesn't.
How does that
no,
look
it
exactly?
doesn't. It does not.
Okay, and see, maybe I'm wrong, but
listen, what it needs is buy-in on the idea, so long as it has light at the end of the tunnel and what the understanding of what you're trying to accomplish is. Okay. So let me give you an example. When it's Pharmalogical, that started this company, he doesn't have a pot to piss in. I mean, and I don't mean that as an insult to Matt, but Matt was at the time a graduate student, struggling to pay rent in Philadelphia. And he wanted to do this idea, well, in order to do that idea, Matt would have either had to have gotten capital from a VC, which the odds are 1 in 700 to 1 in 5,000, very, very low. He would have had to have rich, wealthy parents that basically gave him the money, which Matt doesn't, or he'd have to go out there and basically pray and figure something else out, But with Gusher, you don't need the money. What is the major cost? All right. Let's say you had $1 million, $2 million bucks. Well, just like I said earlier, sitting in the bank. What do you think that money would be used for? And I don't care what business honestly, it is, other than real estate. What's the major league one cost that's used for?
Building. For me personally, what I think of first is establishing the company, LLCs, the documents, formation, and then going into the marketing side, website, that kind of stuff.
Right, but that's because you're starting off as a solopreneur that's going to do everything. Yes. Okay, if I'm starting a business, my number one cost is literally labor. It's labor.
Sure, right.
Labor takes up the bulk of cost. So by bringing people on for performance-based equity, the labor cost is basically eliminated, but it's exchanged for equity. So think of it this way. If you got $2 million from a venture capitalist and he owns 20% of your company with a 10 million valuation of it, post-money valuation afterwards, what are you going to use that 2 million on? Well, if you don't have a product, you're going to be using it on developers to develop the product. You're going to be using it on the CMO to go ahead and figure out the marketing plan. You're going to use it for the creative director, social media, whatever the hell it may be. Well, guess what? You can do the same thing with nothing and get the company off the ground, get traction, have it where it's self-sustaining and generating revenue, and you don't have to kiss any venture capitalist's ass or play those stupid odds. That's 1 in 5,000. So the only issue that you have with Gusher is the problem of wrapping your head around that you can start now without nothing. And so usually there comes a time very quickly, once they can bring that first person on into their team, they're like, oh my God, I don't need money. So they may think it's BS to begin with, but the second they get that first person, then Chris is God and Gusher is God. So
I don't think it's BS, but you can absolutely see where the things that are beat into our heads, man, it's hard for me to wrap my head around this and understand that. So it's not even that Gusher's providing any type of money or financial,
right.
Of course you are, right? Because I'm not having to pay for your software, your service, your network,
or the applicant flows, or right, exactly.
But the thing here is that you're not saying we love the idea. You've got great people. Here's $2 million, make it happen. The point is that I'm thinking product based here for me. And that was going to be my answer, was developing that product, like Hydro Flask. I had Travis on the show. We talked about having to go to China to source these manufacturing plants that can make the product for you, have to actually source the material you're going to make it from, how you're going to do it. And your point is that if I've got a really good new tumbler I want to create and this person buys into it, their sweat equity is going to be, I can develop that product for you and I have a source that can build it for us. And then that's where I save all of that money from that initial investment.
Listen, we bring manufacturers into deals. Okay. So whether it's plastic injection molding, whether it's metal manufacturing, whether it's wood type of systems and wood manufacturing, or any components and materials and assemblers and everything else, especially with consumer goods type of products, those are easy to do. All right. And you don't go to China to do it, believe it or not. There's plenty of manufacturing in the U.S. There's more than 50, 60,000 manufacturers. Contrary to belief, we've got an F load of manufacturing here. Even textiles, you name it, everything's still here. Okay. So electronics, high-end electronics companies we've created from the ground up using nothing. I mean, literally nothing. Where do you get that first order from? Well, I tell you what, if you go ahead and join Gusher, we sit down and actually go over that with you and how to do it. And if you need one of us on a plane in Milwaukee during winter to help close a manufacturer, we've done that. You need us in CES to go ahead and close the ex-chairman of, well, I can't say the bank anymore because they had issues recently, to invest in your company. Well, we're there to help close them. So, we help you every step of the way, but you don't need money. You don't need money at all. Zero, nada.
Yeah, this could be a 3-hour podcast because this is just a mind-blowing amount of information that I've absorbed in the 35 minutes we've been talking already. So,
think of it this way.
This is great.
Somebody out there controls every resource or every service or whatever it is that you need. All right. Now imagine that person is your best friend. Now imagine that person, you're solving a fundamental problem that they understand and get. Well, guess what? They're going to go out of their way for you and work with you and not ask their friend for money. All right. There's ways to do it and structure it. So we just simply teach founders how to do that, how to go about it.
Yeah. This is amazing. So are y'all putting out information on social media? Like, where do I need to go to find out more and learn from you?
Yeah, you just go to Gusher. I mean, that's pretty much where we operate. We operate in our own world. So gusher.co, GUSHER.co is where we are. And again, it doesn't cost anything. You just join there. And if you need to schedule an appointment with me, I'll find you. All right. But I'm very, very reachable and all our people are very, very helpful. Our only point is to help you get from really point A to launch, whatever, regardless of the product or service.
Is it a good idea for me to join up if I don't necessarily have a company I want to start or a product I want to start, but I think that I could be a good addition to someone's team?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can take a look at our companies and everything that's sitting there. It just depends on what you do and what you're looking to go ahead and be a part of. The one thing is you should only go ahead and join a company, and I mean this, if the idea fundamentally resonates with you. If you look at that idea and you say, you know what, I really want to be a part of that. I want to make an impact in a big way. Then you join it. Don't join it if it's a transaction. Transactional teams don't typically work. It's something where they're all vested interest in terms of the actual company, the product, the service. The ones that get it, that have had that problem, those are the teams and companies that work.
Look, can we all agree that any type of transactional business should just be eradicated from the world?
100%.
Anyway? I mean,
absolutely.
And I'm saying that from an honest perspective of, I don't do sales transactionally. I do sales relationally. I want to know who you are. Right. And I want to know if you can be a benefit to me and if I can be a benefit to you. And if we can, great. And now don't get me wrong. It is very transactional. If you're going to be a benefit to me, it means you could pay for my product. You could pay for my service, sure, whatever the case may be. But the point is, I don't want to start taking your money unless I know for a fact I can make a difference in what you're doing. So yeah, let's get rid of transactional based business all the way around, man.
But that comes from a very old phrase in a way that, don't take it personal. It's just business. I get that on one level, but for me, business is extremely personal. I take it personally. I think that the people that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, they're more than customers. To me, they're family. I had it recently with one of our founders. His family member, his brother, was actually dying in the hospital. And who's the person that he calls up? He calls me because literally we talk and we discuss everything. So, to us, our companies, our portfolio companies, the people that we do business with, they are family. And sometimes you have dysfunction, just like any other family, but it's definitely not transactional. If it was transactional, I'd slit my throat because I can't stand doing commoditized transactional businesses anymore.
Yeah, here at Beefy Marketing, man, I was just joking yesterday about, because I made some comment or did something to Andrew, and I was like, I was going to be written up for eating his cookie at lunch yesterday, right? And I don't eat very many cookies. I'm actually losing a lot of weight, and I'm eating low carb and drinking, water and stuff that doesn't have sugar in it. But so I made that joke, and I was like, yeah, so now I'm going to get written up. Excuse me. And the thing is here, we don't have write-ups because we are all connected. We don't have to have that corporate structure of, yes, there's a handbook, there's expectations, and absolutely if he needed to do something, he could do that to put it in writing to terminate me or whatever he needed to do, but we'll never get to that point because we're going to have a real conversation. If he doesn't like something I do, we're going to talk about it as friends, as, basically brothers at this point.
Yep.
And if I'm wrong and I can't get over it, then I'm going to leave and say, hey, we have irreconcilable differences here. Like, I'm gone. It's fine. I get it. We don't need that transaction of, you're my employee, I am your boss, do as I say, treat me with respect, do all this. It's like, no, bro, we're in this together. I want this company to succeed just as much as the CEO and owner wants it to succeed.
And that goes with the size of company. And that's why I love startups. That's why I like entrepreneurial companies. That's why I like fast growing companies. The second they become a bureaucracy and have to have that in place for certain legal reasons, I lose all interest. So I like that $10 to $50 million sweet spot,
Yeah. Dude, what a hell of a conversation, man. I can't thank you enough for being on.
Sure.
This is something we're going to have to revisit and talk about again because this is just a great opportunity, I think, for a lot of people. So hopefully we'll drive some of our listeners over to check out Gusher. And of course, we're going to put all of your links down in the show notes as well. But thank you for being here and sharing this information with us today.
Thanks for having me, John. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Small Business Origins. Man, what a great episode. A lot of stuff to unpack there. I hope that this one can spark some conversations among listeners on all of our channels. All you have to do is go to www.smallbusinessorigin.com to check out everything you want about the show. We can talk about this. I'll create a blog post for it. You can go check that out and see all the things Gusher has going on and how this can make a difference for you as a budding entrepreneur. But that's it for us. It's been another great interview with an awesome guest and an awesome company. I hope you check us out on the next one next Thursday as we release every single episode every Thursday. And we've got another great company and entrepreneur for you on those shows. But that's all. Stay beefy, my friends.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Small Business Origins.
I love an origin story.
If you like what you just heard, leave us a review, subscribe, and share with a friend.
You guys, check this out.
They're going to love it. You're going to love it.